Scottish folk and fairy tales, the Pechs. Long ago, there were people in this country called Pechs. Short, wee men they were, with red hair and long arms and feet so large that when it rained, they could turn over and put them over their heads, and then they served as umbrellas. The Pecks were great builders. They built all the old castles in the country, and did you know the way that they built them? Well, I'll tell you. They stood all in a row from a quarry to the place where they were building, and their folk kind had big hands that they would take the stones and forward them on to their neighbor. And that's how they began the building. The Pecks were also great people for ale, which they brewed from heather. And so you know that they were bound to be extraordinary of the cheap kind of drink, for heather, as you'll warrant, was plenty as it was just then as it is now. And of their art, they were very well sought after by other folk in the country, but they never let out their secret, but handed it down from father to son among themselves with strict injunctions that they should never let anybody else but their own kind know about them. At last, the Pecks had great wars, and many of them were killed, and indeed, they soon came to be only a mere handful of people, and they were soon perished. It was likely that they would perish off the earth. Still, they held fast by their secrets of the way of the heather and determined that their enemies should never wring it out from them. Well, it came at last that there was a great battle between them and the Scots, and in which they lost on the day and were killed, all of them, all the fathers, all the sons. And it said that the King of Scots had these men brought before them, and they tried to frighten them into telling them the secrets. And he plainly told them that if they would not disclose it peacefully, that he would torture them until they would confess, and therefore it was better for them to yield in time. Well, said one of the old men of the Pecks to the king, I see it is that if no use to resist, but there is a condition that you must agree to before you will learn the secret. And what's that? Said the king. Will you promise to fulfill it, if it be nothing other than against your own interests? Said the man. Yes, said the king, I will do as I promise. And so said the Pecks, you must know that if I wish for my son's death, then I don't like to take his life for myself. My son then must kill, and before I will tell you, he will brew for you all the fair heather of the hill. And the king was doubtlessly greatly astonished at such a request. But as he had promised, he caused the lad to be immediately put to death. And the old man saw his son was dead. And so he started up with a great bound, and he cried, now do with me as you like. My son you have forced to be but a weak youth, but you will never come with me at force. And though you may kill me, I will not tell you how we brew the fair heather up the hill. The king was now more astonished than ever before, but it was at his being that he was outwitted by such a weird, wild man. However, he saw it was needless to kill the Peck, and after that, this greatest punishment might now being allowed to live. And so he was taken away as a prisoner, and he lived for many years after that, until he was very, very old and pretty much deaf and blind. Many of the folk had forgotten that there was such a man that was living, but at night some young men, being at the house as they were, had made great boasts about the feasts of their strength, and they leaned over their bed and said that they would feel to their own wrists, and that they might compare it with the arms of the men who lived in former times. And they, for sport, held out thick as a rod of iron to have him feel, and he just snapped away at their fingers as if you would do a wee leaf. And with his great gray grizzle, he said, you are nothing but shackle bones from my days. And that was the last of the Pecks.